Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. Um, we're about to start this great conversation with the artist, an artist that is an incredible, important for us because she's very current in what she does, and we admire her very much. She's a combination of a ceramist, an artist, and also a humanitarian. She does lots of work and collaboration with different organizations. And today, in a day like this, that we are living such a sad moment in America and around the world, her work is actually very current and have a very deep message due to the circumstances that we are living now. Um, we are going to wait for her to join us. Her name is Alex Hodge, and we are very pleased to have her as part of our gallery. She's very active and have an incredible story of life. So we're going to wait for her to connect with us, and we're going to start the conversation today with Alex Hodge.
Hi,
Hi, Alice. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you today?
I'm good. And a day like today, we have a heavy heart for everything that is happening.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate that you're taking the time to talk to us. I was about to cancel the chat, and you also were very concerned about it. But I think art is a way to express ourselves. And through the times, you have shown me multiple works that talk about the union and about happiness and about equality. And that was the reason that I wanted to continue today the talk. And I appreciate your time. So welcome.
Thank you. Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you, how do we meet? And this kind of like the first question that I kind of standardize for everybody.
Yeah, so we met almost a year ago, actually, a little over a year ago, I guess, as I was finishing, my thesis show for my master's in ceramics at the University of Miami. And I was lucky enough that you were representing Juan Sebastian, and you came to see the space and the show, accompanying him. And we just had a really good connection, I think, on my aesthetic, and my message really seemed to resonate, which I'm really grateful for.
And I want to buy them all. That was my
Yes, which is what every artist hopes for.
Yeah, no, I got very lucky and to be able to purchase some for my personal collection. I'm totally in love with them. They're fantastic pieces, and immediately I have to get you. So it was kind of like a very um, passionate moment, for me to see your work and to see how you reflect humanity through your hands.
Thank you. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thank you. So then tell us a little bit, we're gonna talk about what is happening now, because it's a very important topic for me and for you today. But thanks. First, I want people to know a little bit more about yourself, where you're coming from, how you start your career.
Yeah, absolutely. So strangely enough, I grew up in the South, very rural. I actually grew up on a blueberry farm, so very Southern. And I always had sort of a creative inkling or inclination. And my parents initially were very supportive of that, would buy me art supplies and those kinds of things. And we were also sort of like the only liberal or democratic or left-leaning family. Our Obama signs got stolen and things like that. So certainly a very Southern culture and upbringing, which I think spurred me to use my art as activism in a way. And currently, I think that my work really centers around putting beauty and new perspectives back into the world. And at the same time, I do like to have certain pieces that really emphasize this sort of activism, because growing up in that environment, especially around the age of 15 when I realized I was gay, facing that sort of prosecution in this, like in my school environment, where I was kind of the first one to come out, like at the high school, that everyone knew me because my dad also taught at the school. So and because we were the liberal family, everyone kind of knew who we were, and everyone then knew that I was gay, and it was just this whole thing. And I just, from that moment, I feel that I knew I couldn't be silent. And so when I started making ceramics in my undergraduate program at the University of Georgia, all my work was like screaming. I was really learning a lot about the feminist movement. And from learning about that, then I started realizing how the feminist movement had become very whitewashed and not centering women of color stories and all of this. And so my work at that time was really angry and aggressive. And let me be clear, I think there is a place for that work, and I think it is necessary. And at the same time, through graduate school, I feel I was able to develop work that was a little more seductive. Instead of screaming at someone, I'm whispering, hey, come here, like, let me show you something, instead of being like, this is wrong. So for me, I think all of that certainly stemmed from growing up in the South and experiencing that in my own way, that kind of oppression. Obviously, it's not nearly to the same degree or effect, but there is a connection.
When I walk into that exhibition, which, from a graduate school, you master, I was impressed by the level of coherency of everything. It was a whole story in each individual ceramic plate, but also in the sculptures, and the professional way that you set up everything. I was just like really touched by it. And then through the year that we've been working together, and seeing people buying your work in Australia or in Germany or in London, and we are so happy every time that we call you that we sell anything. We also believe that we are not only selling an art piece, we're selling a message, a truly message. In that piece, and you're very active working, and also you're an activist, and these days are you right on it, and what is happening, and we want to let know everybody that Alice is going to donate the entire profit of one of her pieces, this piece that is also in our online platforms, and we will donate our profit as well for Black Lives Matters, because I think it's important that art is used as a message, and that sort of, and that is what I can see, every time that you do a piece, you think about what?
I think about a lot of things. I certainly think about exactly what you're saying. What does this say? Especially ceramics as a medium is this thing that lasts, right? It endures time. It is not going to decay in any way. So I think, when I'm very intentional about what I choose to make and how I choose to make it and what it's going to say to the person who sees it or holds it or lives with it. So I do want to talk about this piece actually for a minute. So this is an older piece. I actually made it in 2015 or 2016 when the Ferguson protests were happening around Trayvon Martin and those deaths. So at the time, like I said, it came out of this very angry and saddened place. And I didn't feel right selling that because I don't feel like as a white person I should profit off of selling something that is someone else's story. So that is why I focus on women's narratives and women's narratives through history, because as a woman myself, I feel like I can talk about those stories without overshadowing other voices. So this piece has a quote written around the wrist here that says, there is such a thing as a nonviolent fist. And that is a quote from a poem by Andrea Gibson. And I think that is just a succinct summarization of everything that's happening. You know, we see the news stories overshadowed by a few what you might call rioters who have maybe done some destruction. And I think that it's really important for all of us to investigate those news stories further. I personally believe that that is not the bulk of protesters. That is a few people who are going in and doing that. And then, you know, it doesn't make good news to show peaceful protests. You know, that's
Absolutely.
not exciting.
Absolutely no. And you know, I think we saw another hand that I remember have the evil eye, no?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yeah. So it's a current in your work, you know, that.
Oh, for sure. Yes. This is definitely still something that I deal with a lot, is the hand as an image. I have this piece here as well. And then this vase, which we just are listing
Beautiful.
as well, called
Beautiful.
Helping Hand. And
Can
yeah,
you hold the hand? I love for people to see it,
the
how
big guy.
consistent it is and how it's quite heavy. You know?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it's just amazing. Every angle, you know, how tridimensional you do the pieces too, and that is big based on humanity. You know, I love you know, the plates are also, you know, how they're just like very you know, soft in the material but very heavy in the message. You know, there's
Exactly.
one piece that I love to talk about it, and it's this one.
Yes, I like this one too.
Absolutely crazy about it. I want to buy it for myself because it's just spectacular.
Thank you.
Wow.
So this one is best seen sort of in the round. It's a little bit trickier, I think, to get the whole composition in just an image. But there are two black female figures here, and the piece is called Creation Myth. So there is the reference directly in the women reaching to each other to the image of creation that we're all very familiar with, you know, which is God and man and man and man. And so, you know, initially the thing that I was feeling upset, I guess you could say, about is, and I think this is in all of my work, is how women are erased through history. You know, we don't get to be part of the creation myth. Well, why not? You know, women have birthed the world. So
Yeah.
I think, you know,
we're nobody without a woman.
Exactly. So this piece for me was really about getting connected to some ancient mythology, which is something I often talk about in my work, and calling it Creation Myth was a direct pastiche of that particular famous painting. And then again, by making them black women, that is another message in itself, right? The world.
It's funny because you just finished these pieces maybe a month ago.
I did.
We are talking about this, you know, which is kind of like absurd, you know, that we're talking about color and about people and about class and about power. It's just like I believe that is people are not learning that we are actually on the floor. The humanity has put us this virus to keep us more humble, and suddenly we're just talking about people's color in the skin. It just doesn't make sense to me, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, you know, that's a beautiful piece that I want to show. And then we talk about this particular collection that was part of your project a year ago. And you get all these muses, but they all have a message in their neck, you know, the silence, the pressure, the torture, the happiness.
Yeah, so I can talk a bit about that. This was one of the crucial components of my thesis exhibition, and it was a collection of, I think, almost 60 plates, and each of those have a portrait. I am utilizing sort of these elongated forms with simplification as well, so that the story becomes very apparent. You know, and I don't want any of those details to be lost to the viewer. Anyone should be able to go and draw a conclusion from these images. And so by having this collection of 60 some portraits, being titled Some of Our Parts, I really wanted to bring together these disparate bits of stories that all women hold in, and the idea of putting these objects in the throat was a direct correlation to the voice and the power of the voice, the power of sharing your story. And I did also have, as you can see, a couple of plates where there were two figures in the frame. And that was even a further step to talk about how our stories are connected and we need each other to balance and to support one another. So you can see the bottom left, I think, the one with the braids connecting
the braids, beautiful. Yes.
Is called Rain or Shine. And the one woman has rain in her neck and the other has a desert. So if you know, part of the lore of this work for me was that the stories are, while at the same time very present on the surface, they could be interpreted a little bit differently based on the viewer and their own narrative and, you know, their own experiences. So for me, that means something very specific. And for someone else, that could mean something different, but at the same time, still interpreting women's stories and sharing the power of that.
Do you feel free at the moment? You feel free at the moment as an artist, as a woman, at this moment in the world?
That's a big question. I don't know. Honestly, I just, the past week, I suppose, has felt, like you said in the beginning, it's very heavy for all of us. And on the same token, I feel at some point a little bit useless, for lack of a better word. You know, as for my own personal health, I'm not someone who can be in the protest on the ground, especially during a pandemic. So, you know, I've been racking my brain. Like, I think, like you say, art can be an avenue for activism. Art can be a way to make change. So how do we do that? So for me, you know, we coordinated and decided that we can donate the full proceeds of this piece whenever it sells to Black Lives Matter. Whether it sells today or a month from now or a year from now, that money will be donated. And for me personally, on my own Instagram, I am currently hosting a raffle for sort of a mini art piece. And if you donate to one of the bail funds, only $5 gets you an entry. So you just screenshot me your donation and I'll put you in. That is through tomorrow at noon, and I'll be choosing the lucky winner at 2 p.m. on live. So I just wanted to plug that really quick because, you know, like I said, as someone who can't be on the ground, it's really, really important for us to not let that be a cop-out. Like, oh, I can't be out there, so, you know, whatever. Like, no, that's not okay. You can do something. Even if you're sharing information, being emergency contacts for people, fact-checking information, that's really important.
Very important, yes.
As we do have this privilege of being in the art world, being artists and collectors, I encourage you to share and collect Black artists as well. You know, we all know the numbers in museums and how Black artists are way underrepresented, especially Black women. So I challenge you to go do some research and find a Black artist that you can support. That is, I think, a very concrete way to help. And then I did also just want to quickly say about the bail fund donations. The reason that I have chosen that is because these people are out there risking their lives, not only because of the police brutality, which we obviously know that is a risk to your life if you're a person of color, but also the bail system in America is rigged so that it traps people who are in poverty or low income and then can't afford that bail, so then they have to stay in jail. And I think this is a really good way for us to support those people while also protecting ourselves at the same time. So, you know.
Absolutely, and we are there with you 100%, supporting you, because what you're doing really is activism through art and a very generating happiness,
Absolutely.
and that's what we can do. I see these people on the streets walking, and it's enough. It has to stop. People have to understand that that we are all the same. Period. I have been also being part of a as a Hispanic, as a gay, it's just not easy to be out there sometimes,
It really
but
is.
never enough. I think Black people have it tougher than anybody, and it's not fair at all.
Absolutely.
Continue with your work. You express. This is again one of the pieces that we're going. All the process are going to go, but I wanted to, talk about these fantastic sort of images that you do of I don't know where these ideas come from, and then to be able to